Your Daily 180, 180 seconds of pure Bible study.
The church and the grace of God are inseparable. We want to be part of that ideal church that we read about in the pages of the Bible. Now, the reality is the church is made up of flawed people. But we rejoice in the fact that God, through His graciousness, when we surrender to Jesus, that's the key. We have to surrender. We have to be submissive to whatever He commands. He sees us as perfect. Isn't that amazing? We read that yesterday from Jude, verse number 24. Today we want to talk about the fact from Ephesians 1, verse number 7, that this grace is redeeming grace and sacrificial grace. Look at verse number 7. In Him we have redemption through His blood. That's the sacrifice. The forgiveness of sins according to the riches of His grace. Now, let me challenge you to do this. Read through Ephesians chapter 1 and just highlight every time you read about the grace of God. And it's all interconnected with the church. The church is the product of the grace of God. Don't ever make the mistake of saying, oh, I want to have a relationship with Jesus, but now the church is unimportant. The church are the people who belong to Jesus. Now, you may be looking at man-made institutions and say, boy, they're all messed up. Or you may be looking at a group of people who are trying to be the church which belongs to Jesus, and they're flawed. But don't make the mistake of thinking that's the church. The church, God has an ideal within the pages of the Bible, and our quest is to be about that. And that church is enjoying the redemptive grace of God and the sacrificial grace of God. In 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse number 26, there Paul would write about people who have escaped or need to escape the snare of the devil. We were trapped in our sins and our lawlessness, and it was through God's redemptive act, His graciousness, that we're able to escape the snares of the devil. In the book of Revelation, Revelation chapter 5, there we have this beautiful scene from heaven. And in verse number 6, we see this idea about the sacrificial grace of God. There he says, and I looked, and behold, in the midst of the throne and of the four living creatures, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb, as though it had been slain. As though it had been slain. That lamb is Jesus. Because of His sacrifice. Then we read down in verse number 9. They sang a new song. You are worthy to take the scroll and open its seals, for you were slain and have redeemed us to God by your blood. The church which belongs to Jesus is a redeemed people because of the sacrifice of Jesus. Join us again tomorrow.